the question about the like hey, security versus trade-off shouldn't even be happening in this day and age, because the consequences of not having secure systems. Because if you can innovate with the power of AI, the bad actors can also are already using AI to do that. And if you are not doing it the right way, you are actually inviting trouble, right? So, for lack of a better word.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Human Managed YouTube channel. I'm Deborah, and today we have Sriram, our Chief Cyber Officer, here with us on a special episode of Humans in the Loop to talk about his vision for human managed in the cybersecurity space. So, hi, Sriram.
Hey, Deborah.
Nice to have you. It's my first time with you having a chat in person. So for context, Sriram is usually based in the States, and he's come here today and he's made time to talk to me. So before we dive into your vision for human managed, why don't you tell us about your journey into cybersecurity leadership and how you ended up where you are today?
I don't want to date myself. I have a few decades of experience. I started out as a developer and then moved on to implementing COTS-based or commercial off-the-shelf products. And then that brought me into implementing a cybersecurity and identity product. And that's how I got into cybersecurity about 15, 16 years ago, and gone through different roles. Most of it has been in the identity space, and then enterprise security. I've led enterprise security programs across a few different areas. Yeah, I mean, that's my journey.
So I guess we brought you in as our chief cyber officer to kind of, because you have this unique perspective, having, been in the space for so long. So I guess one of my main questions would be, what are the most persistent cybersecurity challenges you see in large enterprises or even small enterprises? And the challenges that security leaders usually face?
Yeah, so one of the things, right? So again, when we talk about enterprise security, right? So people think of, let's take an example, right? So it's not like about guarding a castle, right? So it's about managing a city, right? So when I mentioned that, you are actually dealing with thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of identities, human identities, right? So workers, partners, contractors, and whatnot. And then maybe a few hundred thousands or millions of non-human identities like service accounts, API keys, and so on. Combine this with millions of entity relationships with systems and different applications, different platforms, and whatnot, right? So it's not essentially guarding a building or guarding a castle. It's about managing traffic across a city, right? Because you have all these different things going on in multiple intersections, in multiple areas and locations. And it's how do you bring everything to work, operate normally in the midst of it. It can sound chaotic, but how do you actually manage that at scale? That is more about enterprise security, right? So coming back to your question, right? Like what are the persistent problems I see repeating in different organizations and so forth. I would say the first thing is probably heavy manual work that exists in companies today, right? So that's one thing. And then second thing I would talk about is improper change management, right? So that's another aspect that I see, right? Because many a times that could be another potential issue. And then other things that I could think about is tool sprawl, right? So a lot of things and the associated noise that comes into play, right? So cybersecurity has become, especially as organizations mature and as technical capabilities spread out, that also brings in a lot of tools into play, and that also means it generates a lot of noise, right? I don't know if you're going to talk about alert fatigue down the line, but that is something that I really wanna mention is the whole concept of tool sprawl and alert fatigue that actually causes a lot of issues, because the question is never about having the right intent. The question is having the focus on the end-to-end outcome, right? So typically there are tool owners, right? So typically somebody at the top has the right intent in actually getting something, but then the outcome, nobody manages the outcome overall, right? So all these tools produce a lot of signals, and then they're expected to work together to actually achieve the outcome we want, and a lot of failure happens there, right? So to summarize, I would say, I mean, like as I mentioned, there are a few different points, but one thing I would say is enterprise security sometimes is plagued with failure of coordination, not a failure of intent, right? So that's something I would like
That's
to
a
add.
good point. Like the failure of you want to get something done, but it's just like the logistics of actually making it happen, right? So I would like to ask, what are the most persistent security or cybersecurity problems that enterprises, big or small, tend to face that you have seen in your experience?
No, actually, that's a great question. I think there are some common themes that I see repeatedly. The first one is lack of visibility, right? So that's been the prominent one, right? Because there are a lot of things going on, especially in larger enterprises. The current times we are in, there are a lot of moving parts, a lot of innovation that's happening in different technical areas, and that also creates a lot of security issues as well, right? So lack of visibility is the number one theme that I would talk about. And then the number two is with the rate at which yeah, the technology innovation is happening today, uh, uh, keeping up with manual controls in place is a it's no longer possible, right? So relying on manual controls to scale with AI would be the second issue that I see. And again, even before AI, this has always been an issue in large enterprises as well, because the scale at which things happen, the scale at which there are multiple moving parts, it's always difficult to keep up manually. Third, but not the least, is the effort that goes into coordinating or orchestrating all of the different moving parts in an organization. And even though we talk about cybersecurity as if it's a centralized function, in many companies, large or small, even though the risk is shared across, right? So the accountability is another aspect, but the all the different departments within the company, whether it's IT, whether it's engineering, whether it's product, whether it's business, they all play a part in providing in improving the cybersecurity posture and even actually remediating any open issues and so forth. So that's when a lot of time is spent on coordinating and orchestrating the outcomes you want from a security perspective. To summarize, a lack of visibility and lack of automation or relying too much on manual processes. And third is the time that is spent on coordination, right? So that's something that I would say.
So if I may ask, right, why do you think these problems keep recurring despite all the technology investments that companies are making into their cybersecurity?
One of the things is most of the times when you go to a doctor for an ailment, what do they treat?
The symptoms.
They treat the symptoms, right? So typically, most of the investments that are made into tools is to actually treat the cybersecurity symptoms, because a lot of the issues you see occur at the systematic level, right? So you have to start treating systems instead of treating symptoms, right? So that's when you essentially, even though there is a lot of investment that goes into tools, the issue there is each tool as an owner, each tool is actually implemented locally, and but the outcome you want is actually depends a lot on the business context. It actually depends a lot on the overall business outcome that you want out of the investment. But many a times it's a lot of these disconnected systems produce noise more than actually produce outcomes. The more tools you have, the more noise you have in the system, because you have more alerts, and you have each system has its own set of things that it brings into play. And there's again the whole concept of prioritization that comes into play, right? So you need to address what you really need to address, instead of if you keep looking at every hi and hello, then it's you're just going to keep nodding your head here and there, right? So that's what's going to happen.
So I guess you mentioned business outcomes, right? Trying to balance like addressing the root cause, but at the same time, it's very easy to just address the symptoms because that seems to be the most obvious thing on the
Yeah.
surface, right? And I guess that kind of leads to my next theme of the role of chief cyber or CISO roles in the boardroom and how that role has evolved. So how do you see the relationship between security leaders and say, board directors or like the CEOs, the more executive leaders in a company evolving?
I mean, this has been a widely talked about topic in the industry, right? In the past few years, I personally have seen the CISO role actually evolve from being more of a technical role into a business role, right? So, and then instead of talking about incidents, controls, and vulnerabilities, a lot of conversation is about risk exposure, right? So, and instead of just being technical translators, cybersecurity officers or CISOs have evolved into risk translators, right? So they need to talk the business language. They need to, because cybersecurity is no longer just a technical risk. It's actually, it highlights your operational, it highlights your reputational, as well as your business risk, for lack of a better term, right? So that's where I see the role has become less of a technical role and more of a business role, because a lot of companies have actually folded because of cybersecurity issues, right? So, and that's how serious cybersecurity is for business in general, and that is also that translates to how CISOs have evolved in the last few years.
So, do you feel, and I mean, this is what I've heard, but it may not, your experience may be different, that many CISOs kind of struggle to translate technical risk into business language, business kind of a way to communicate that to more executive business leaders, right? So, what would your advice be for people who are trying to, for CISOs specifically and cyber leaders who are looking to bridge that gap between cyber risk and business outcomes?
Thing is, what exactly is the risk, right? How likely is it to happen? How much is it going to cost to fix it? And what can we do about it now, right? So if you can answer all these four questions, then you have a framework to actually talk about risk to your board. And then in my to be honest, right? So if the business does not understand or does not know how to act after hearing your risk story, then you don't have a business story, right? Because it's essentially you need to provide actionable steps when you actually talk about risks to your board or to your business.
So I guess that brings me to my next section about your role at Human Managed, what you do for us. So you've seen how security operates at massive global enterprises, right? You have a lot of experience, more experience than I've been alive probably. So now at Human Managed, what are we doing differently?
So, to be honest, I've lived through the pains of enterprise security, right? Because the issue in traditional enterprise security programs is there is a lot of invisible work that happens, right? So the work that is done actually coordinating behind the scenes, the work that is actually done in chasing owners of systems and in actually understanding the context when something happens, right? So there's a lot of work that happens behind the scenes that is not actually productive in nature, but that actually consumes a lot of work for teams. So at Human Manage, one of the things that we are trying to address is eliminate invisible work, right? So instead of focusing on how things or processes are diagrammed or how you have it documented, you're actually looking at how things happen or operate in reality. So our focus is on operations, right? So in ensuring that we eliminate manual triages, we eliminate the need for coordination, we eliminate the need for providing context. So in essential, in summary, I would say that instead of using humans as a system of record, we want to actually utilize systems to do that and use humans more for the high value tasks like making their decisions more strategic in nature and more visionary, right? So it's like if your entire cybersecurity team can focus on high value tasks, just remember how the outcomes are going to be, right? So that's the idea. So that's what I really I'm excited about Human Managed.
Do you have anything else to add on that front about how this concept of invisible work and eliminating it can really change the game for an organization's
Yeah,
security?
absolutely, right. So again, if you think about again, if you are honest enough to accept most cybersecurity leaders would know that a lot of work actually happens is actually invisible work, right? So work that you cannot actually showcase, right? So the work that is spent in connecting the dots, in understanding context on why something happened, in finding owners or tracing random phantom stuff. So that's where most of the effort goes on. And for lack of a better word, I think invisible work seems to perfectly fit the bill for all of these work that is non-productive and that but takes up a lot of useful time from security teams. And if you just think about it, right, so if all the time is actually given back to you, right, so to actually make meaningful programs, to actually focus more on future proofing, focus more on strategic items and strategic roadmaps that actually help you in this fast changing technology landscape that we are in today.
So for any CISOs or risk and security leaders watching this, right, what would your advice be on how they should strengthen their security posture while also supporting their business innovation?
To be honest, right? So, I mean, I've been on security teams where security has always been called a blocker for innovation. But kidding aside, or I mean, I'm not kidding, that was true. But I honestly feel that instead of actually having this discussion about a trade-off between security and innovation, the question should be more about how can we enable innovation in a safer manner. So instead of putting road bumps, why can't we have safe lanes where you already have the guardrails defined so that somebody who follows the rules and follows the policies and can stay within the guardrails can move at the speed that they want, right? So that is what my personal opinion on this matter is actually designing processes that actually make the safe and secure path to be the fastest path in achieving something, right? So if you can make that happen, I think that really would. I mean, there's the question about the like, hey, security versus trade-off shouldn't even be happening in this day and age because you know the consequences of not having secure systems. Because if you can innovate with the power of AI, the bad actors can also are already using AI to do that. And if you are not doing it the right way, you are actually inviting trouble, right? So, for lack of a better word.
Well said. Well said. So I guess for like my closing few questions, I mean, I really learned a lot from your sharing about how an organization should view their cybersecurity, and with, like you said, like it shouldn't be a case where business innovation and security posture are mutually exclusive. They should work together. You should find a framework that supports
Right.
business innovation, right? Because at the end of the day, that is the goal for good business outcomes.
Absolutely, right. So years ago, there was always this question about innovation versus security, right? But in today's day and age, everybody knows that an insecure system is not going to go that far, right? So it's gonna be shut down very soon, either internally or externally, right?
Yep.
So you need to make sure that whatever you build, secure by design, is no longer a buzzword. It is the way of life for everyone, right? So again, that's the reason why I feel like it shouldn't even be a question where this comes up, right? So it should be, and again, I'm going to be speaking at RSA on a topic very close to my heart, right? So again, lessons learned from cloud adoption, when a lot of things, a lot of security decisions actually were afterthoughts, right? So, and if we can apply some of the learnings from some previous transformational events, transformational journeys that many organizations have gone through, it's always easy to actually sail through this wave of innovation that we have today. And I'm really excited about a lot of stuff happening outside in general in this area, and even at HM, how we actually embed controls in everything that we do, and that's how it should be done.
So would you say that is what you're most excited for at Human Manage? Or is there something else that you're most excited for that we're building?
I mean, I'm excited about a single platform where we bring in a lot of cool things, right? So, I don't know how to put it succinctly, but the thing is, like, we are again, security cannot just be periodic, right? It has to be continuous, and security cannot just be fragmented. It has to be integrated with everything, and we cannot talk about uh, things that are very ad hoc in nature. It has to be something where it's harmonious with everything that you do, right? So and that is what I really feel good about, right? So it's not about just managing alerts. It's about making the right decisions and how do we get there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm really excited about.
Okay, so thanks for sharing all your thoughts about my many, many, many questions. I really learned a lot from this discussion, and I hope to have more discussions with you in the future. To those who watched all the way to here, thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe. We post every week or every 2 weeks, depending. Hope to see you guys in the next video. Bye.